Hi guys, welcome back to Faithcast. We're here today at my home, and we're going to interview one of our children today, one of the older ones. Do you want to introduce yourself?
My name's Taonga. I'm the oldest of Melissa's kids, but I'm the second oldest daughter altogether. Yeah.
How old are you?
I'm 16 years old.
What school do you go to?
I go to Blacktown Girls High School.
What year are you in?
I'm in year 11.
What about, do you work?
I work at Hungry Jack's in West Point.
So when I texted you and told you that we'd do a semi-interview, so it's not going to be like all the questions that we usually ask everyone. It's going to be more fitting towards your age, I suppose it would be. So, starting with, what do you do at church?
For church, I serve at kids' church, and I serve in JAM. I mainly do kids ministries because I'm not old enough to do anything else yet. But yeah.
Do you do one-to-one?
Yes, I do one-to-one with Michelle.
Have you done one-to-one before?
Yes, I've done one-to-one with Abby and Navia.
Is it hard doing one-to-one?
I don't think it's hard doing one-to-one. I feel like it's good for me because it helps me grow, and it also gives me like people that I can trust and talk to about things.
Grow in what way though? Like,
grow to be able to be more confident in sharing my story with others.
oh, how often do you do one-to-one?
At the moment, I'm doing it fortnightly with Michelle.
What else do you discuss? Like, don't give me the nitty-gritty, obviously, because I don't want to know that. But like, what does your general one-to-one look like?
I usually get picked up, and then we go to Macca's, and me and Michelle are reading this book called All Questions and Answers That Teenagers Should Have. And it's basically about like all the questions that people would normally ask Christians and how they are answered and how Jesus answers them and how the Bible answers them. So we go through like 3 parts before we see each other, and then we talk about it and talk about what we found interesting, and then we talk about our weeks.
Does your one-to-one mean that you can only talk to her like when you're face-to-face?
No, for me, I see Michelle at church, so when I want to talk to her about stuff that's happened before our one-to-one or after our one-to-one, I talk to her at church or I message her.
Next subject. As a teenager, how hard is it to be a Christian in a world that we live in?
Well, I'd say for me, it's pretty hard, especially because unlike most of the teenagers in our church, I go to a public school that is non-Christian, where majority of the people claim that they're Christian, but they're not. So it's hard to stick by your faith, but also try to fit in with other people at the same time.
So besides like the people that you go to school with, where else do you hang out with Christians any other time? Besides your family, because that doesn't count.
Well, at church and after church sometimes. I usually hang out with the girls from church. But recently I haven't because I've been doing stuff on Sundays. So.
Is it hard though? Do you find it hard having conversations with kids that go to a Christian school?
I don't find it hard anymore. I find it kind of funny because when they're all talking about their teachers from Tyndale, I'm like, yeah, I know that teacher. Like, yeah, I have that teacher for maths. And they're like, are you being serious? I'm like, no, I didn't even go to Tyndale, but that's okay. But yeah, at youth group, we have a little friend group of the non-Tyndalians so that we can all talk to each other about like other things. But even though we have like no idea what the other kids are talking about, we're still just like, yeah. Tyndale. Woo, fun.
Good to know. What else is hard about being a Christian in the world that we live in?
If you don't smoke, you're not cool. If you don't do drugs, you're not cool. If you don't drink, you're not cool. So basically, if you don't do anything that they don't do, you're not cool.
Like they, as in the girls from your school?
Yeah, they as in people other that aren't Christians.
So everyone at your school?
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Do you think that if you went to Tyndale, it would be easier?
I feel like probably not, because I know from a lot of the kids that have told me that it's hard because even though that they go to a Christian school, half the kids that go there aren't Christian. They're always something else.
So Dad and I actually had a conversation right about sending you all to Tyndale, and my thing was like, nah, because you'll never, like, for our kids, no one else's kids, let me just get this straight, are not always going to be surrounded by Christians. Like, you're always going to have family members that are doing stuff that we don't agree with, and you just need to go to public school to be exposed to that. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree with that a lot, because even if we're just surrounded by Christians all the time, we're not going to know how to deal with the world and the people in it. So we're just going to be just there. Suffering because we don't know how to deal with it.
And let's be honest, we could have made some better choices, but anyways, not all of just even our immediate family, I don't really know many that are Christians, to be honest.
A lot of them are Catholics.
No, just like Reformed Christians.
Yeah.
Or even practicing Christians.
They say they are, but they're not.
Yeah, well, that's the difference, because if you're a practicing Christian, then you're actually a Christian, to be honest. So, we've had those conversations about Tyndale. We've had the conversations Dad and I about leaving you guys at public school. You've wanted to move schools, which was advice against. Why? What are you going for this year?
I'm applying for early entry into university. Probably going to be Western Sydney University. To do PE teaching.
Which means what?
Which means I don't even know what
that means. That next year, because you'll be a year 12, you can cruise, because you've already gotten your early entrance into university. Do you think that if we were at home in New Zealand, you would get that same opportunity, or even be thinking about that?
I feel like I tell this to like a lot of people, like when they always talking to me about how I'm different from the rest of the people in the church. That I know that if I wasn't a Christian, I'd probably be in a bad space and be doing things that I shouldn't be doing. But I know that if we were back in New Zealand, because I always wanted to go to Auckland University, but if we were back home, I feel like I wouldn't have done anything to do that, to work towards that goal.
Why?
Because I would have been distracted by the things around me, and I wouldn't be so focused on
Those are very vague answers. You can just say you ought to be more focused on drinking, partying, smoking drugs.
True that.
That's the world that we lived in New Zealand. You don't have to be shy about that. Or ashamed of it, either one. So us living here has given you the opportunity to be able to just even look at having goals that are attainable. Do you think that us living here is a God thing?
I feel like it could be, because after like a year of us living here, we met all of our church family at the festival, which are also people,
family.
Yeah, which are also people that have encouraged me to work towards our goals, because I can see that they are achievable by other people.
What made you pick PE teacher though?
Because I have a passion for sport. I've always had a passion for sport, so I wanted to do PE teaching.
But how many other PE teachers are in our church at the moment? Or training PE teachers?
I know that there are a lot.
Or sports science degrees.
But yeah.
So would you agree that that's a God thing? Yeah, I'd say 6 too. Something 6, like maybe that. A bit more. Heaps of them.
And a lot of them are from the same family, so.
which is really good that God's put you in a space where there's all these other people that are still going through it, that have come out the other end and now have gone and transitioned, like still teaching, but in a different area.
Yeah.
What was the other one? People that are now looking at it too. Was that it?
Yeah.
That's a God thing. Would you agree?
I would.
So my next thing is work, right? Though you work at Hungry Jack's, and if he ever watches this, I'm very sorry for calling you out on this, but though you always get upset at your manager, he is super amazing. Would you agree that that's a God thing too?
Yeah, because in times of need when I needed a job, Norman just so happened to just know that I needed a job and then asked me if I could come back to work, which then I ended up doing so.
But that's not even that. What are we up to? Sibling number 4.
Yeah, 4 siblings.
4
working
of
at
my
Hungry
kids
Jack's.
have worked at or are working at Hungry Jack's.
All
The
because he
3
loves you.
girls. Oh, I know.
Yeah.
But, like, no, that's a God thing. The 3 girls are now employed by Hungry Jack's, which is a God thing. Like, and it wasn't even, like, how, did I tell you what Norman said? Did I tell you what Norman said?
Yeah, you said we walked in and he was like, I'm hiring her.
Yeah.
Or because
No interview, no nothing.
because of the quality that he's seen that we have at work, he knows that even if our sibling, because Lucy was really good, and then when I came in, I was really good, so he was like, "Oh,
She's just preempting
Yeah.
that Ty's going to be good too.
Yeah.
I hope she's the biggest headache that he ever employs, to be honest.
He will.
'cause
She will be.
That's her.
Yeah.
So we've got these 2 God things, right? School and work. Where else is God working in your life?
Even with my friends, I know that last year towards the end of the year was hard because I lost a lot of my friends, and then
Why though? Note to the watchers, this is the super emotional daughter.
I was going through a rough time after my boyfriend broke up with me.
Mm-hmm.
And then it turns out that all of my friends were actually fake. And then I ended up getting kicked out of a whole friend group. But now I've made new friends at work that have been able to be there for me and be supportive of me and help me get better. So yeah.
Do you feel like God's been there though? Do you see now? So, have you watched my interview?
Yeah.
See how I called you out on it? Yep. So this is the daughter that I was talking about, guys. And I'm not even gonna lie. Like her and I will scrap like cats and dogs because we're so similar. She is the epitome of what's that saying? The kid one when the kid becomes you, or something. Oh, I can't even remember. She is the epitome of my headache, but I love her with all my heart. And though we scrap like cats and dogs,
A daughter is a reflection of her mother.
yeah, that's it. It's though we scrap like cats and dogs, we can be best friends too. So, with all of that said, do you think that it's a God thing now, looking back on it?
Yeah.
Through all the arguments and everything.
Yeah, I've realized now that even after all that stuff, it wasn't worth putting myself in a relationship where it wasn't for God.
What does that mean? Like, what does for God mean?
Well, I was trying to be Christian, but I was in a relationship with a person who wasn't Christian and didn't want to be Christian, and that really affected my relationship with God.
What about your friendships? Does that lay onus on your for God?
Yeah, because when I started to grow more, I ended up losing a lot of friends. But now that I don't really mind that I lost all those friends because they weren't helping me to be a better Christian.
So, what is the definition of Christian? Don't give me the Bible textbook answer either. What is your definition of Christian?
Well, for me, it's believing in Jesus, believing that He died for me and
Mm-hmm.
that He loves me no matter what, and that He will always be my greatest best friend and will always be there for me in the end.
Yep. Do you apply that?
What do you mean by that?
Like, and even in the hard times, are you like, oh yeah, that's right, Jesus died for me on the cross?
It's I do, but I don't. It's like more like I'm doing all this stuff, but I shouldn't be doing that stuff because Jesus died for me so that I wouldn't have to go to hell and wouldn't have to deal with eternal life without Him.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm just asking because I know that a lot of the decisions that Dan and I make impact you older ones first and foremost before it impacts those three over there. And a lot of the decisions that I push for are the ones that ensure that you stay in a space where you still can be attacked. That sounds bad, but where you're still put in places where you have to choose God. Like instead of just making your father's life super easy and being like, oh yeah, we're just really great Christians. We're just whatever. We don't get attacked. We don't get put through trials. I just want you to know that. But do you agree with it? When you have kids, are you going to make sure that they go into all Christian schools and only have Christian friends?
No,
Or do you think that you would do the same thing with your kids and put them into public schools and everything?
I feel like I'd probably put them into public schools so that they can learn how to deal with it instead of just being reliant on other Christians around them.
So my next question is: being a teenager is hard anyway. Being a girl teenager is hard. That's for damn sure. How hard is it being a Christian girl teenager?
Oh, it's absolutely bogus. It's so bad. Like literally last night, this guy at work, like one of my co-workers, some guy came up to order, and then he was like, "Oh, he looks like he's in a cult that hates gay people." And I said, "They have cults for that. Like, what do you mean?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, like Christians." And I said, "We don't hate gay people." And then he said to me, "Yes, they do." And I'm like, "Mm-hmm, sure," and walked away. But
Well done.
even at like trying to be open about your faith and not be be ashamed about it, it's hard because everyone's just like, oh, I'm just gonna do this stuff to fit in. Like even my best friend, or my old best friend, who was supposedly a Christian, even she was doing all this stuff but claiming she was a Christian, and I'm like, you're just not.
But that's what this podcast is for, right? Because Christians do have a certain stereotype. They're a cult that hate gays. They're what else have I heard? Cradle snatchers, pedophiles.
Yeah,
Um, they just take all your money.
racists.
Racist, like so much, and it's just based on what the bad ones are doing, right? Because there's good Christians and there's bad Christians, obviously.
That was actually one of the topics in the book that I was reading about. It was the whole chapter was called "Why Can't We Just Live Life Without Jesus?" And then there was a bit in there talking about how Christians have a bad what is it called, reputation because of the things that happened in the past, and because of the missions and stuff that they did So those generations and those cultures, they don't like the idea of being Christian. But then, even though most of those people end up being Christians anyways, because they're used to being treated that way.
Crazy that, eh?
Yeah,
It's crazy how people's brains work.
it's like the statistics in America. There are more African American Christians than there are American